This episode of the Baseline Scoop is brought to you by La Terrain Watches. Shop the best collection of affordable luxury watches online at la-terrain.com. Don't forget to use promo code BLS10 for 10% off your order. What's up, everybody? Zach Ciavolella here, host of the Baseline Scoop, here with my co-host Justin Crosby. Justin, how you doing today, man?
Doing good. It's some new news.
Yeah, and new news is good news in the NBA when everything's kind of stagnant, waiting for Kevin Durant to be traded or to not be traded. So we'll get to the news, and then we'll kind of break everything down. But on today's pod, we're going to be talking about Kevin Durant. Obviously, just mentioned his name. We're going to be talking about the new news that can affect a Kevin Durant trade, and that's Donovan Mitchell being apparently shopped just a few days after Utah said that they're not shopping Donovan Mitchell. So consistency is key. Yeah. And after that, we're going to take a look into one member of the Utah Jazz who has a lot of fans in Philadelphia, and he has something that is either interesting or not interesting at all, depending on how you feel and how you look at the situation, how you hear his words. So to start at the top, KD, right? Everyone still wants to know, where's Kevin Durant going, right? So the Malcolm Brogdon trade is on the precipice. It is so close that Dave Portnoy at Barstool can taste it, but it has not been completed yet. Because he was on vacation. That's it. Like, Brogdon was on vacation, so he hasn't had a physical. Right. So this trade is not yet official, which is crazy that it is still not official. I mean, it's not crazy he took a vacation, it's because, God forbid he take a vacation.
Right.
It's crazy that the trade is still not done, because the second that this trade is done, the expectation is that the Indiana Pacers could potentially either offer an offer sheet, submit an offer sheet to DeAndre Ayton, or what is for some reason the more realistic situation, perform or agree to a sign and trade with the Phoenix Suns for Ayton. Now it's a little weird that they do the sign and trade. There's rumors out there that the Pacers prefer to not hurt another. It's the owner of the Pacers. He prefers not to hurt another fellow owner by signing players to offer sheets. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. So so apparently Herbert Simon, owner of the Pacers, doesn't like to do that, doesn't like to hurt the other owners. Is that like, has there ever been like a better example of a small market team being like bullied into submission?
Right.
Like what possible reason? I mean, what do you think about that? Let's put Kevin Durant aside for a second. Talk about the real stuff here. Like, under what circumstances does that make sense to you?
It doesn't make any sense. One thing I could think of is, maybe in the future he's thinking like, okay, if one of my guys become restricted free agents, I don't want anybody to hike up the price on me. But it's just
gonna happen.
It's a part of the game. It happens to everyone.
Yeah. Well, listen, he can try that if that's his plan to, hopefully no one tries to come after his RFAs. But I'll tell you this right now: 29 teams are coming after Tyrese Halliburton the second he enters restricted free agency. So if I were him, I wouldn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
So I would have just signed.
They're definitely going to drive the price up on on that one. So
yeah. And you're Indiana. And listen, I kind of like the Pacers. I was a big fan of the Paul George, Roy Hibbert David West era Pacers, just
Lance
real, like,
Stevenson.
beat you in the mud kind of basketball, good hard defense. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Uh, you are not a destination. Just to be realistic, you are not a destination. Philadelphia has trouble getting free agents. Indiana has trouble getting free agents, right?
Absolutely.
So you
Absolutely.
have to do what you can to entice these guys to play. And if that's giving DeAndre Ayton a max contract that Phoenix will not match, absolutely go for it. The only potential way that this makes sense to me, right, is if it's not so much about wanting to preserve the relationship with Phoenix, but it's about wanting to bring Ayton in at a smaller price tag, which I think there's a potential chance of that. But in any DeAndre Ayton trade, you're sending over Miles Turner.
That's what I'm saying. And other stuff because Miles
That's the
Turner,
report. Yeah, Miles Turner and other stuff, which,
yeah, because he only makes 18 million.
well, that's the thing. So, like, what are you going to what is Ayton signing for in the first place? Because I can't see him signing for anything less than 20 million. You still have to get him to want to come, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, doesn't he want a max deal now? So that's something like 5 years. Let's say
Exactly.
5 years. I'm just guessing 5 years,
Right.
130. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting, I don't think there's any, even the perfect situation for him, the team he wants to go to the most, I don't think he'd take less than 25.
right,
So, with that being said, for Indiana, you're probably already going to have to sign him to a max contract. So, unless there's something that I don't know, which happens all the time, that the true professionals know, it seems odd to me at the very least. But
right.
to tie it back into Kevin Durant, once that domino falls and DeAndre Ayton becomes a Pacer, which it seems pretty clear he wants to become a Pacer, Brooklyn officially will be out of the Kevin Durant race because they're
Hmm.
not trading Devin Booker.
Right,
They're just not.
right,
And it's not that they shouldn't, because honestly, just on value, I'd trade Book. But at the same time, like, Devin Booker is one of the most memorable players in franchise history for the Suns.
yep,
He's significantly younger, still cheaper, not a flight risk like Kevin Durant is.
right,
So that there are reasons to not want to part ways with Devin Booker for Kevin Durant, but it looks like they're going to be officially out because I don't see them trading Book for Durant. So and you'd theoretically want to pair them together in
right,
Brooklyn.
right.
So it all depends on what Brooklyn's willing to negotiate price wise, but without Aiton, who they already seem not interested in, I don't see it happening. So it kind of brings us to, what does Philadelphia do in the Kevin Durant race? What's the vibe you're kind of picking up on Philadelphia's involvement, Justin? And do you think our odds have gone up of getting KD? Have they gone down? Are they about the same? I mean, what do you think?
And honestly, like, so I do think, and I'm sure Daryl has made a call or calls, to test the temperature, to see what they get. But I think it's just about the package, as far as what they can offer the Nets, if it wasn't in a 3-team deal, just like straight
Yeah.
up. And if you look at that, it's really just, I mean, players wise, unless you're getting a true all star back or multiple all stars,
Hmm.
the package is not that bad as far as player wise. Is Tobias, who Tobias is not a bad player at all. He's just
No, not at all.
overpaid, but if Tobias was making 25 million, he'd be
Yeah.
perfectly fine. Tyrese Maxey's upside is ridiculous. And then
Hmm.
Matisse Thybulle. And then the only thing you could probably offer is pick swaps and maybe like your 2029 pick for Kevin Durant. But when you
Yeah.
look at some of the bevy of picks that some of these other teams have, um, you know, some of these other teams have, I think
Hmm.
you look at, that's the difference. If
Yeah.
Brooklyn wants to do a whole rebuild. Now, if they don't want to rebuild, then that's where you come and kind of see how you can flip things around and make it possible. But I don't see them
Yeah.
getting, or even really getting close into getting Kevin Durant, but they could help
Mhm.
drive up the price to get better players. I mean, that's your best bet. But
Yeah.
we talk about, like, I love Tyrese Maxey, probably my favorite Sixer. Um, yeah, my favorite Sixer,
A
but
great guy. Just a
yeah, it
great
was
guy,
like
Tyrese.
everything he embodies for
Yeah.
the city. But like, if you had a chance at Kevin Durant, you
Mhm.
just gotta do it like
Totally.
right now because nobody would be complaining if the Sixers got Kevin Durant and they won a championship, but then they don't have Tyrese Maxey. Like that'll be forgotten completely.
Yeah, after they won a championship. It's funny you said that because I actually talked to somebody this morning, who we were having an argument or debate, not friendly, uh, about trading Tyrese Maxey for Kevin Durant, and he was thoroughly in camp. Do not trade Maxey for Durant, no matter what. And I'm just kind of like, listen, for the chance at a championship, I don't even need the guaranteed ring, but you're getting a top 5 player in Embiid, a top 5 player in Durant, and that's minimum 5. I think they're both closer to 1 than they are to 5.
Right.
And you're talking about, James Harden, who, if he is, obviously the narrative around him has been, well, is this like a Chris Paul year? Is that what he had last year? Like, is he going to be better this year? I think he will be better. I
Yeah.
don't know that he's going to make the near MVP leap that Chris Paul did in his second year after injury, but
Right.
I think he's definitely going to be better, and so I expect him to be around top 20 to top 15 player in the league.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think he'll be close to a triple dub. I think he'll be an
Yeah,
all-star again. So it's just like,
yeah,
it's that, but I just like you don't even like you said, even if it's a chance, like I don't think
yeah.
if they did the
Well,
trade and somehow got in, they're popping champagne in the
yeah.
locker room. I think all the guys would be like, damn, man, I miss
Yeah.
Maxie. Like, no.
But look, you get those 3 players, and like that's your best chance at a ring.
Yes.
Like just flat out. Like I love Maxi. Like Maxi is he's a wonderkin. Like he's amazing on and off the court. Like it's so rare that you see someone play with that kind of joy,
Right.
you know,
That's
and
what it
and
is. It's
and
the
and
joy.
and that well, like there is nobody in the NBA that I root harder for than Tyrese Maxey.
I agree.
But
I'm with
you
you.
better believe that I would trade him for Kevin Durant, and I think that he would trade himself
For
for
Kevin
Kevin
Durant.
Durant.
Exactly.
Like you just it's just a level of awareness. Like you're talking about Kevin Durant, who is a top 15 player of all time.
Yeah,
Like
arguably the
I
best scorer of all time.
it gets really complicated when you start involving like centers in that top whatever conversation. But
Only
like
don't get me started. Only two centers probably should be in that top conversation.
we're gonna have a conversation about this because I really want to get into that sometime.
Okay.
I want to make that a whole new pod where we go through centers because whoo, I have a lot of apparently hot takes about it because I get a lot of people disrespecting my man Wilt Chamberlain.
So
So
I would disrespect him.
see, and this is why we're going to talk about it. So we'll get into that on another pod. But the point is, Kevin Durant, one of the top players of all time, even higher than James Harden.
Yep.
Um, like, how do you say? And the thing is, too, he's still playing at a high level. People talked about James Harden being cooked. Kevin Durant's not cooked.
No.
Like he obviously the injury bug has affected
Bitten
him a
him.
little
Yeah.
bit, but he's definitely not cooked. And 2 seasons ago, he was what, like half an inch away from the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Um,
Eastern
get
Conference
like
Finals. Yeah. And then
yeah,
they
which
definitely
he
beat
then
them.
would have advanced, again, and who knows what would have happened at that point.
Right.
So, yeah, definitely, Kevin Durant for Tyrese Maxey, and I don't think it'll be enough, but if it is for whatever reason, I would definitely do it. And the thing I'll say too, how ironic is it that Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey is a fantastic fit together?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's part of the thing that really annoyed me about the whole Ben Simmons situation too. Obviously, Ben and Joel didn't fit.
Right.
Ben Simmons and Tyrese Maxey really fit. And Ben could have adjusted his game so he fit better with Joel, and he still would have been a great fit with Maxey. Like, if that happened, like everything's unlocked basically in Philadelphia. So, anyway, that's my short little rant about Ben Simmons. I really don't like talking about him anymore at this point, but Simmons, Maxey, that would be a great fit. That's definitely something that Brooklyn can sell themselves on. And then, like you said, Tobias Harris, legitimately a good player. We're talking about a guy who can average 20 and 40% from three.
Yep.
So, like that's nothing to snub your nose at. So,
And
uh,
he
yeah,
Tobias will get you 8 rebounds a game too.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and he's a good leader. He's a good
Mhm.
leader on the court, off the court. He's a guy who he's shown he's to a degree willing to do just about anything the team needs.
Yep.
Maybe he wants to handle the ball a little bit more. We did hear rumblings about that, but we've also since heard that he's happy with the situation in Philadelphia. So
Right.
I don't think there's any reason to consider Tobias Harris anything but a great soldier and a contributing team or contributing member of the team. So I definitely think there's value there, especially next year when that's on the last year of the deal.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of value for Harris, and I think that's part of the reason why you may, barring a Kevin Durant trade,
Hold
still
on
see
to him.
Tobias Harris here at the end of the season
Yep.
because of that increased value there. So,
Yep.
but part of the ties that go into Kevin Durant, we mentioned DeAndre Ayton. This is not a one domino kind of situation, right?
Not at all.
Obviously, Kevin Durant is holding up pretty much all of free agency, but the issue is all of the potential players who may or may not be available, who may or may not be involved in a trade for Kevin Durant. And one of those players has just kind of come back into the trade rumors, and that's Utah's Donovan Mitchell. So after trading Gobert for can only be described as a king's ransom, which I don't know how they got that. I'll be honest with you. Um,
I
Obviously,
mean, I
Gobert is one hell of a defender, and he deserves all the props for that. But he's limited offensively. He's 30 freaking years old, and he plays the second least important position in the game of basketball. Like, how do you get equivalent of 5 first-round picks, Balmero and Vanderbilt, on top of Beasley and Pat Bev? Like, I can't figure it out. I can't
well,
figure it out.
the reason they got the extra picks were because they didn't want to give up Jaden McDaniels. So this is what I read from.
But you just threw Jared Vanderbilt? Like,
Yeah, they didn't want to give up Jaden McDaniels, so they did that. And then as far as offensively, and I agree with you, but what has been said is that Gobert feels like he was never given a chance to do anything besides roll to the basket because when he played for France basketball, they post him up.
all right. Well, so here's the thing, though. Quinn Snyder already left. Like, Quinn Snyder was gone. Like, unless I have my dates wrong, he had already left the Jazz
Absolutely, he
for the
left.
Gobert trade.
He left because
So,
he knew there was a rebuild coming.
yeah, so I don't understand why. Like, we'll just try a new coach and then see if that makes Gobert happy, and you don't have to rebuild at that point.
See, this is
Like,
why I can't
but
wait. I can't wait for the expose to come out. Like the Harden
yeah,
expose came out. I can't wait for the expose
yeah.
for this to come out because it's clearly
So
stuff going on
much
behind the
juicy
scenes.
details. Oh yeah. So much juicy stuff's going to come out about it. So anyway, we're not talking about Minnesota, not today. Anyway, that's not the point. Point is, Utah looked like they were heading towards a rebuild, but a build around Donovan Mitchell. A couple days ago, they said they're not looking to trade Mitchell. 2 days later, Adrian Wojnarowski talking about how the Utah Jazz are listening for offers on Donovan Mitchell. And now listen, listening to trade offers completely different from looking to trade Donovan Mitchell. World of difference. Like, I'll be the first person to say that. With that said, they will absolutely move him if the right deal comes along. Now, the Gobert trade, like, you're going to need to do like 1.5 times that to get Donovan Mitchell. You're going to need an obscene amount of draft picks. You're going to need prospects with legitimate, like, all-star upside. Like, the Miami Heat would have to trade Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, and every pick they can, basically, to land him.
See, I agree, but then the part of me doesn't agree because I feel like Rudy, the opportunity to come to Minnesota just came about because they were just working
Mhm. Yeah,
and it went up. But I feel like Donovan, see, the thing about Donovan Mitchell, I feel like he wants
yeah.
to ask out, but he doesn't want to look like the bad guy. But I feel like he's
Sure.
this close to asking out, and all he has to do is say, I want to go to X team. That blows
Mhm.
everything up, and you get what you get. And that's why I think
Yeah,
that if he says Miami, like say he says, I want to play for the Miami Heat.
yeah,
All right, that's the only team I want to play for, whatever. And then everybody's seeing how the Ben Simmons thing works out. So like this changes that Ben
yeah.
Simmons changed everything. So if Donovan says, all right, I'm going to sit out, just hypothetically, I'm not saying he's that type of person. I'm just saying
No, no,
hypothetically,
no,
if
of
he says
course.
he
Well,
wants
we've
to
just
sit
seen so
out,
many players do that. Yeah.
yeah, you want to sit out until I'm
Mhm.
traded to the Heat, then the Heat are going to get whatever package that they're going to. I mean, clearly they're going to have to give
Yeah.
something up, but they're not going to throw everything in the kitchen sink. Or, if he says, I want to go to the Knicks. All right, the Knicks package, they might have more because they have more assets as far as draft picks.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I think that you may not get as many picks for Donovan Mitchell. I just
Mhm.
think that Minnesota, how can I, they overpaid. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
they saw the house that they wanted, and they
Yeah.
knew people were bidding on a house, but they were like, "We're gonna go $100,000 over market, like asking
I love the
price."
fact that you used house as a analogy there because it's 100% a brick house, but go on.
But yes, so that I think that's what happened. They overpaid
Mhm.
to get something they want, and I mean, it is what it is. But I mean,
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't see like Wendy's whole thing, his little thing that he did on Sports Center, clearly
Mhm.
there's been rumblings about a rebuild, and either you saw before with the thing before COVID and how Gobert and Mitchell weren't speaking and how it was
Yeah.
beef, and then they worked it out, then they still don't like each
Yeah.
other, and then became a him or me thing. Like, you
Yeah.
already seen the writing on the wall. And then to me, if I'm Donovan Mitchell and I look at what I got back for Rudy Gobert, I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
want to be here either in Utah. So
Well, yeah, listen, I definitely hear what you're saying there. My one thing, and this is just because of what you specifically just said, and it actually reminds me of Kevin Durant. If Donovan Mitchell is looking at what the Jazz got for Rudy Gobert, he's gonna want to top that, and that's an ultimate selfish kind of move, and it depends on if Mitchell's that guy or not.
right,
Kevin Durant was absolutely that guy. Kevin
yeah,
Durant would not be traded just for D'Angelo Russell straight up,
right,
and so that's why the first round pick got included in that deal. So I can kind of see the argument that Mitchell looks at the package for Gobert and is like, oh, I could top that.
yeah,
You know, but I definitely agree. He's not going to want to be. I don't think he wanted to be on the Jazz in the first place.
right,
You know, I don't think he wanted to be in Utah. Let alone now that Gobert's gone, and he may not have really liked Gobert, but Gobert was the best player that he's ever played with. So to now have that guy gone, and you're left with Mike Conley, uh, Bojan
Bogdanovich,
Bogdanovic, Jordan Clarkson, Rudy Gay, like a bunch of guys that like either can't run or can't shoot. Like that's a problem. So I could definitely see him wanting to leave. And the Knicks, I think, are the top leader in the clubhouse. They have what is it, like 4 first round picks? I think they got their own
yeah,
Washington's first round.
plus whatever they got from the Detroit or the OKC trade that they did.
Yeah. So
So,
it's their own, it's Washington's lottery protected, it's Dallas's top 10 protected. I think that might be a juicy pick this year. I'm just gonna say that now.
mm,
Detroit, it's a top 18 protected. That's not conveying this year, but you
yeah,
can still trade it because it's got protections that like kicks it back.
yeah,
And that's good until like 2027, I think. So yeah, definitely you're looking at 4 first round picks this year. On top of that, you have future picks from Milwaukee. Is there another Dallas one in there somewhere? I guess the other Dallas one was just this year. But there's picks to be had. So I think there's a way that they can do this without losing RJ Barrett, which is like shocking. But if you're willing
yeah.
to go like 5 draft picks plus Cam Reddish, Obi Toppin, Emmanuel quickly,
Probably
I
Julius Randle.
well, if they want Randall, that's the thing.
Right.
Because that Randall, I listen. I'm not the right person to ask about Julius Randall. There's a lot of people who
Me
love
either.
Julius Randall out
Me
there.
either. Yeah.
He is loved by people. I am not one of those people,
Me
right?
either.
So I'm
He
not the
made the All
person
Star
asking
team
that.
over Tobias. Can't believe it.
You talk about negative value contracts, and I would take Tobias's contract with him. I would take Tobias Harris and his contract over Randall and his contract any day of the week.
Hmm.
Any day of the week. I am not a Julius Randle guy at all. But with that being said, I don't know. Maybe they have value in him. I think maybe if he was a few years younger, they'd probably take him.
Yeah.
Or does a third team get involved? Which is kind of the whole reason we brought up Mitchell in the first place, because now you start to wonder: are they looking at a potential 3-way deal where Mitchell goes to Brooklyn? We know that Mitchell likes larger markets. Obviously, he's talked about being a Knick in the past. What about Brooklyn? What about the Nets? Now, maybe playing with Ben Simmons isn't ideal for him.
Well, I don't think they
But
could be
if
on the same team.
they also might not have to be, because there is the ability to work out if it's not even a 3-team trade, if they're 2 separate deals, right? You could, because that's the thing. There's so much optionality here for Brooklyn. It's
Right.
just a matter of finding deals that actually
That work
satisfy
for
what they
them.
want. But you could incorporate a 3-team trade where Mitchell comes to Utah. KD's not going to Utah, but send KD wherever, Miami or to
Yeah.
even the Knicks, even places that Mitchell wants to go. But they take Kevin Durant instead, and then you get the bevy of picks, you being Utah,
Yeah.
and that works. Or in a secondary deal after moving Kevin Durant, or even one big deal, you move Ben Simmons plus picks to Utah for Donovan Mitchell.
Right.
I think that's something that's still potentially on the table. Now, it's
Right.
Ben Simmons' value is not equal to how he is as a player, just considering how he's acted over the past year plus, but uh, that's still a possibility, and that solves the problem of Mitchell playing next to Simmons too.
Yeah.
EJ
Yeah.
Liddell just tore his ACL.
Oh damn. Yeah, I saw something yesterday that
Wow,
they carried him off.
that
That
is rough.
that's bad.
That's awful. I love Liddell. That is not right. Well, that's a shame. So hopefully Liddell he gets right soon, gets back to the player that we all know he can be. Slipped in the draft for seemingly unknown reasons to us, but good player,
Mm-mm.
even better kid, comes from a great family. So hopefully Liddell comes back stronger than ever. Uh, but anyway, as we were saying, we're talking about the Jazz, Mitchell, and Ben Simmons, as you were, Justin.
Yeah, I just think that I think because like the rookie extension contract that Mitchell and Simmons couldn't play together, but on the same team.
Yes, exactly.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I think it makes sense. I do think it would be kind of like funny after like Utah and its fans like fighting Ben Simmons for the rookie of the year
Yeah,
for him to end up in Utah. And honestly, like not even no jokes, all seriousness, like
yeah,
Ben needs to go to a place like Utah. I mean, they
yeah.
expect to win. They're a small market, but they expect to win.
Hmm.
But it's not like playing in New York. It's not like playing
Yeah,
in Philadelphia. It's not like playing in LA.
yeah,
Like where he can kind of like he'll be on TNT 10 times a year or 12 times a year or however many times
yeah.
a year TNT on Jazz and late night games. But like
Hmm.
if you're not a West Coast guy and you're my age, you might not even make it
Yeah,
to those games. So it's like it's not like it's a lot of pressure on him to
exactly.
be this thing that everybody's waiting to see him get back on the court. So I do
Yeah,
think going to a place like Utah would be a good fit for him, and it would be a fresh start.
yeah.
And on top of that, I think that if they did something like that, they would basically say, all right, we're resetting, we're getting picks, but we'll have some players that fit with Ben as
Hmm.
well. And I think you can see a bevy of moves come from Utah with not only Donovan Mitchell may be in a move, but I mean Mike Conley seems like he's at the twilight. He could be
Yeah,
gone, Bogdanovich,
yeah. There could be
Clarkson.
a bevy of moves. There could be a Pat bevy of moves. So Patrick Beverly recently acquired by the Utah Jazz in that Gobert trade that we mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I guess what I'll start with first is he was actually just talking about the Jazz. So I came across this Joey Lynn, who covers the Clippers for Sports Illustrated. He had actually shared this on Twitter, and it really kind of popped off. And this is where I found the clip. So thanks, Joey, for that. But it's Pat Bev talking about the Utah Jazz, and there's two ways to take this. His comments, I guess I'll say, right? So I'm going to play the clip, Justin, then I'll ask your opinion on what you think of it. Um, but keep in mind, I believe this was actually before the Donovan Mitchell news broke.
Right.
But again, he was a part of the Gobert trade, so Gobert is already gone from Utah when he made these comments. So here we go. Here's Pat Bev on Instagram Live earlier today.
Utah, what up though? Utah, what we go do? Utah, y'all trying to win? Y'all
Utah.
trying? I don't know. We trying to see what we trying. Y'all Utah, y'all trying to win or y'all trying to tank? Let me know. Only thing I do is make playoffs because I'm in that. I'm trying to win. So y'all let me know what's going on.
Yeah, to the playoffs every single time.
Every time, easy too.
All right, Justin. What do you think, man? What are your initial thoughts seeing that clip?
My thoughts are, he's like, yo, like get me out of here, like buy me out something. Like obviously he wasn't expected to be traded because he signed an extension with the Timberwolves, but I
Yeah.
mean he's like, yo, he sees the writing on the wall just like everybody else. Players talk to the inner circles of the NBA talk to. He probably knows what's on the wall. And he's like, yo, let me know what's up so I could talk to my agent. And we can either get a buyout, which I don't know how likely that would be, or trade me to somewhere I want to go, or to a contender, somewhere that I think I'm going to have a little bit more, have better success with than just playing here and just playing out the season. Like Patrick Beverly hasn't been on, many losing teams. And even those teams that were underachieving, like say some of those Clippers teams, he still added enough of his style and how he plays to help get those guys to the playoffs or take on the best matchups and games that matter, right? Like Clippers fighting for the 7th and the 8th seed, a couple seasons ago, or whatever the case may be. So even I think it was like last season or the season he went to the conference finals or whatever the case may be. Like he's played big games and that's what he's used to. Being 34 years old, taking however long it took him to get to the NBA, he's not trying to be playing in Utah and they rebuilding. Like no, he's trying to send a message like, get me out of here. That's my first thoughts.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to hear him like talk so openly about it, right? I come away with something kind of similar where it really seems as though he is saying, all right, Utah, either bring somebody else in so we can compete or ship me out, and so it's not, it's kind of like almost like tongue in cheek where it's like, well, maybe I'm not saying trade me yet, but if this doesn't change or if this gets worse, which it kind of looks that way with the Mitchell stuff, then yeah, trade me away, send me out, get me gone. I don't want to be here anymore. So,
and I'm sure there's a lot of members of the Utah Jazz that are having the same thoughts, like some of these guys who want to win.
Like Mike Conley, I would think.
Exactly. Like, hey, like what's really going on? Like, do we need to start doing backdoor deals or whatever the case may be? Like, let's keep an eye out on everything to see, what's going on so we know what we have to do. Because again, a team of, in my opinion, let's even leave Donovan Mitchell on the team. I guess a team of Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, Bogdanovich, Clarkson, Beverly, Rudy Gay, Walker Kessler, Jared, like that team doesn't.
You miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
In the West.
West isn't even that strong as it used to be, but you missed the play. Like, let's look at the teams and let's look at who got better versus Utah, who got worse. They got better assets, but they got worse. So if we're pulling it up here, right? So here's the teams that made it last year: Suns, Grizzlies, Warriors, Mavericks, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Pelicans. I think all of those teams are making the playoffs again this year because most of them, have gotten better. I think the Nuggets kind of took a step back, but they're supposed to get Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back.
Right.
They're not going to be 100%, but they're better. They're healthier. They're better to have them at least for a little bit. Same thing for Zion. You just mentioned him. Pelicans also going to be building chemistry with CJ McCollum, right? Timberwolves, obviously, they brought in Gobert. The Mavericks, I think, I'm not a big Christian Wood guy. You lose Brunson. They get worse. They're probably closer to that like 7-8 spot to me. Maybe you get to 6, but you're probably in the play-in because the Clippers are coming back healthy next year too. Is the other thing you have to think about.
They're going to be good.
Exactly. And then you got the Blazers who now have Jeremy Grant. You got a healthy Nurk. You got a healthy Dame Lillard.
The Lakers.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
But listen, I'm just saying.
We'll see.
Kyrie,
we'll see. If Kyrie, yeah, that changes a lot too. And then listen, and this is going to sound crazy, right? The Sacramento Kings are making the playing game.
I hope so.
I'm saying it right now. They're making the play. I'm not saying they're making the playoffs. They are making the playing game.
I hope
All
so.
right. Book it. It's happening. Okay.
If they add Tobias Harris, they'll definitely get the
Oh
7th
yeah,
seed.
no. Yeah, number 1 seed if they add Tobias Harris. Especially if they send that bum Harrison Barnes to Philadelphia, because who would want Harrison Barnes?
Right.
So wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But yeah, no, the Kings they're making the play-in tournament. I think. Again, whether they get past that, the West is going to be tougher this year than it was last year. The point is, Utah, even with Mitchell, has a chance to miss the playoffs.
Yep, I agree.
So there's going to be people jumping off the ship left and right. So
exactly.
One of those people is definitely going to be self-proclaimed perennial playoff player Patrick Beverley. What do you think about him in Philadelphia? I mean, a former Houston Rocket, played with Harden.
Add him to the doghouse.
I know, right? I mean, it makes perfect sense. How to get him, that's kind of like the tricky part.
It's hard. It's really like Furkan. You have to really do like I don't know, and I don't know, but Furkan,
because you got to give up value for him too is the other thing. It's not just
Furkan, Matisse.
Yeah,
that's like almost 10 million right there. 13. Then you might be able to add like Springer, or Shake or something like that, or Joe or Reed, or you got to throw somebody else in there, or even Trevelyan Queen, something like that, where you get 3 players for one, right? So you kind of got your roster for Beverly, who offensively is not the best, but defensively he definitely fits the mold. But then you just get another small guard, so it's like Melton and Beverly and Maxey. But then I still like Pat plays bigger than his position. Like Pat Beverly has guarded LeBron James, so like I'm not even.
Oh, he averaged 4 rebounds last year. I mean, like in limited minutes, like that's not bad at all,
And I can imagine him doing something stupid and then egging on the crowd and the crowd getting crazy. Like I could just imagine it, like the hype. So if we can get him, if it was a way to get him, like if we found out tomorrow that Patrick Beverly is get traded for the Sixers, I would be like, okay. Now I will hope that because you're trading Matisse, who is still a young asset, all NBA defender, that you can maybe get a first round pick back from with that, or 2 seconds or something where you can kind of parlay to get some future ammo. But
well, the thing with that is, and this is going to sound kind of odd, I don't know that Utah wants Matisse Thybulle. So if you're doing that, you might be talking about a third team coming in, because and it's not about Thybulle as a player, it's about the fact that he's younger, but he's 25, right? He is limited, which I wouldn't say like it doesn't necessarily hurt his value because he's so valuable defensively.
Right.
It doesn't help his value is the thing, because he's so limited offensively.
Right.
And you got to pay him after this year. So to a third team, I think there's definitely value there. Oddly enough, if we're talking about like pilfering Utah, obviously Patrick Beverly's a target. But this could be what Tobias Harris is saved for effectively, where you kind of work in his salary plus, maybe you move a Jaden Springer, who counts as kind of like a fake first round pick. Springer was younger than like most of the people drafted in the first round this season. It was super crazy.
Yeah, he's still only 19.
He's only 19 years old. It's crazy. So, you use him as kind of like a fake first round pick. You send over Tobias Harris. You said that before we even got on, you said something about Harrison Grimm had a
I think he had.
Deal. Do you remember what that was?
Bogdanovich, Beverly, and Gay for like his was different. I think it was. I forgot who his. It might have been. It was Tobias. I'll tell you exactly what it was. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're right. That could be something where you consolidate. You're able to get something from Harris's contract and kind of consolidate. Yeah, he said Bogdanovich, Beverly, and Gay for Harris, Korkmaz, and Thybulle.
Yeah.
But
I know. I think that there's definitely an opportunity there to to get some value, and whether Pat Beverly comes to Philadelphia, which I think he'd be probably the prime target. Bogdanovich, I think he's definitely a target, especially if you move Harris, just because. Listen, he doesn't fit the athletic need Philadelphia has. I totally get that, but he's a useful floor spacer, and the ability to score is definitely helpful at the 3 or the 4. Mike Conley is a guy to potentially look at too, just because he's on another big money deal for 2 years.
Mhm.
Not as big money as Tobias Harris, but definitely still something that is a little pricier than they're probably willing to pay for Utah. But they're going to evaluate the market for all these players. Even Malik Beasley, I think, is going to be shopped around for a bit. I don't want Jordan Clarkson even entertained as a thought. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I don't want people to even think about it. Jordan Clarkson out nowhere near Philadelphia. Like, there are players who I have no interest in, and their archetype is Jordan Clarkson, Karis LeVert. I have no interest in mid-range warriors. All right, I no desire for it. I do not care. That's why, like, even players like Malachi Branham, and I hope he expands his game, but those mid-range ball dominant
Mhm.
wings, nah, it's no. If we were the 90s Knicks, like, sure, maybe, but like, no, not in 2022. That's not what
90s
we're trying to
Knicks.
do, especially around Joel Embiid
Right.
and James Harden. It doesn't make sense. You're just talking about getting wing Tobias Harris, who also can't shoot as well from 3. That's what you're doing. So
Mhm.
I have no interest in Jordan Clarkson. For me, Pat Bev, lesser degree Bojan Bogdanovic. But there's definitely going to be players to watch in Utah who the Sixers should be interested in. It's just a matter of, can you actually pull off the deal? So do you have any closing thoughts on how you think that this Mitchell news impacts the Kevin Durant sweepstakes?
No, I think everything we talked about, the KD sweepstakes, even if we talk about um the DeAndre Ayton and Donovan, this is all interconnected, right? Because once KD is moved or once Donovan Mitchell is moved, like, all this stuff starts to unclug the rest of the offseason.
Everything. Yeah.
So, and then don't be surprised if you see a multiple team trade where just everybody kind of gets what they want in
Yeah.
one huge trade. But like you said, this Utah going into the rebuild kind of becomes another player in the trade game in general, because
Mhm.
they may become dumping grounds for bad salaries, quote unquote,
Yeah.
where they try to get those assets to get picks and be like Oklahoma City for the next
Yeah.
2 years or something like that.
Or
Just thoughts
they
on
could even theoretically come in and swoop into the DeAndre Ayton sweepstakes,
that. Hmm.
and say I may have seen something about Utah not wanting Ayton, but they could theoretically swoop in on the DeAndre Ayton sweepstakes and move picks to Brooklyn in that deal.
Right.
So I mean, it's technically possible. Whether or not they want to actually do it, who knows? But so here it is. This is actually Jake Fisher. Utah has been described as an unlikely destination to Bleacher Report. So who knows? Maybe it could change. Maybe not. Listen, Jake knows what he's doing. So if he says it, I'm here to believe it.
I
So
agree. And I like the fact that when people randomly about Jake Fisher, when people like say random things and just like credit him, and he comes
mhm.
back and be like, "Yo, I didn't say that." I think it's
Oh yeah.
hilarious.
So you saw what he just said. Then is that right? Is that the Vice City alerts?
Yeah, but that's like the third time or second or third time I've seen in the
Yeah.
last 3 weeks.
Well, he's got that like podcast now where it's like the "Don't Aggregate Me" pod or something like
Yeah,
that, and yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, don't aggregate Jake Fisher or you're gonna aggravate him, and I got a problem with that. So all right, well, that's all we got for today. Thank you so much for listening, for watching, for joining with us today. That's who knows when this is gonna end. It's just it was such an exciting off season, and now we've hit such a
Mhm.
dull moment. Next time we're going to talk about some summer league standouts. So,
Yeah.
so that'll be fun at least. To kind of go over the summer Sixers as they were. So that'll be our conversation on our next episode. But for now, I'm your host Zach Ciavolella with, as always, Justin Crosby, and we just hit you with the baseline scoop.
Peace.